How many people here like turn-based games? You know, like the XCOM style games, the old type of Final Fantasy Tactics games. When it's this type of gameplay, I really gravitate towards it. And I have found another one for you guys. And I hope, maybe we can talk about it for a little bit. Let's talk about it. It's called Demeo for the PC. It's on VR too. You can get it on Oculus. I don't know if it's on the other VR stores. I think it is, but don't quote me on that. But we're going to be reviewing the PC version. And shout out to them for sending the code over here. Now, before we get on with the video, you guys know how it is. Definitely hit that like button if you guys enjoyed this video. You can always subscribe to the channel for weekly podcasts. We do the Iron Lords podcast every Sunday at 1 p.m. and we do the Addict show every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Now, without any further ado, this is my review on Demeo for the PC. What's going on, you guys? Lord Addict here, coming at you with another review. Today we're going to be reviewing Demeo. You guys know that I just reviewed games like Triangle Strategy not too long ago, so I think some of you know how I feel about these type of games. Now, let me go ahead and make this perfectly clear. I was a little bit stumped on how I would make this review because I've never really played a game like this. This is a very unique game. It's called Demeo and it's for the PC. Now, I did play this on the VR, on the Oculus, and I really enjoyed it on that platform. It's actually the only reason I really even gravitated even remotely towards the VR space. So you could really thank this game for any kind of VR content from me in particular, as in Lord Addict. Now, let's talk about Demeo in general. Demeo is kind of like a board game, like something like Clue, Monopoly. Now, I don't know if there's an actual board game of Demeo, but I do know, as of talking about the PC version, it's kind of a 4-player co-op that you play with up to 3 players, and you roll a dice to see who goes. It's like a grid space, like those old XCOM games. If that's the type of gameplay, I feel like you guys will really gravitate towards it. There are 4 characters, well, 5. You got the assassin, the mage, kind of like the tank, the warrior. I think they call him a guardian, the bard, and the wizard. Now let's talk about these units. These are the units you play in the game. Now, how the typical gameplay of Demeo goes is every turn all 4 players go. They have 2 action points and they get these cards. Now, let's talk about the cards a little bit. Every card has the amount of action points required to use that card. So let's go over the different type of cards that I generally saw in this game. So it looks like there were, support cards that required 0, so you could use them and still use both of your action points, such as strength potions, health potions. Then you had class specific cards that were designated to the wizard or to the archer that you could only get if you was that class. Now, every class had a card that was reusable. They could use it as many times as they want, but it had a condition. You would have to wait a turn after using it. Or the assassin, he would have it to where he could use the ability, which would be, pretty much making himself invisible on the map, but he couldn't regain that card while he's invisible. So he would have to be in plain sight. He would have to go out of invisibility mode, and then he would have to wait an additional turn to reuse that card. The guardian had an armor ability where he could put armor on himself, and the wizard could shoot lightning. Now, let's talk about the classes in general when it comes to whether or not I felt like all of them was fun to play. Now, I felt like the bard had really unique abilities. I felt like the archer was nice. You could shoot 2 arrows. I felt like, I really mainly stuck to the assassin because he can go invisible and he could be very aggressive at the same time. If he did back attacks, he would be able to do additional damage depending on if he was doing back attacks. So I felt like that was really unique, and that made the gameplay different than using like an archer that you would generally stay away from the enemies. And he had a lot of sight, as long as you could see down a path, he could pretty much hit anyone down that road. The only one I really had an issue with is I felt like the wizard isn't balanced enough. I felt like because he only has jolt attack or spark attack, I can't remember exactly what it was called, where he would shoot lightning at them, some enemies are immune to stun, and that was the biggest reason you would use that attack for. And I felt like that stun ability, it was really ineffective if they did have immunity to weak. Now, was it really decent if you could use that ability known as stun in the game? And obviously stuns where they can't move for a turn. You could lock people down and be able to handle other enemies while you had these different units stunned, so you could handle those other people. Now, I did feel like the wizard was too relying on other classes. I felt like, you would have to combine it with the archer's mark ability to be able to fully utilize the cards that the wizard had. It's like, I felt like unless the wizard had his own cards, now, because there will be in situations in this game to where you'll use so many cards, you're pretty much just using the card that can be reused over and over again. So like I said, the ability to go stealth with the assassin, the ability to shoot 2 times with the archer, and the ability to put armor on yourself as the guardian, those were the repeatable cards. And the wizard could only shoot a lightning bolt that stuns people. So I felt like unless that wizard had cards, and class cards specifically, you couldn't really do too much with that person. I don't know how you would fix that, but I do feel like there needs to be some rebalancing with the wizard. Now, as far as the cards, besides the class cards, there were cards that everyone could use. I did feel like some of them were a little OP that I felt like that maybe should have been ultimates that you could only use once with each class. I do feel like there needs to be something else added on to the card system in general than just having that one reusable card. Let the assassin do a certain ability once a map, or once an actual set, because that's how it goes in the game. Is there's 3 maps to every story, and it gets pretty difficult, especially the second and third map. Now, I don't know if it be scaling to how many players is actually playing the game. We could talk even about that a little bit. Like in Demeo, if you play with one person, you're playing with one individual unit, 2 people 2, 3 people 3, and 4 people 4, like you would normally do on something like this. But I feel like this is kind of similar in the vein to something like, Divinity. Now, maybe it's not as high scale in a different form of game as Divinity, but it is kind of like, that co-op sensation playing it. And I think Demeo really takes advantage of the fact that you do have the ability to play this game with 3 other players. But I feel like where they fall a little short with games like Divinity is the fact that when you play with only 1 or 2 people, and even just 1 person, sometimes you can't get 3 people. They should give you the ability to play with multiple units. For example, if you play with just 1 person, let that 1 person play with 2 units and the other person plays with 2 units. So you do feel like you're still getting the full experience of this game, and not with just, 1 person played with 1 unit and the other person played with 1. Because I did feel like unless I was playing with 4 people, the game didn't take advantage to what Demeo has to offer, if that makes sense. Now, Demeo does a really good job at explaining a lot of things, but I think you have to look up tutorials on YouTube to some mechanics that's in Demeo that I feel like they should be more open with it. Now, they could have updated stuff by the time of this review where they update the tutorial, but I did play the tutorial and I didn't really see them go into detail on some things. Like, for example, if you use a strength potion, that buff that you got from that strength potion carries over to every map. So when you're in a store and you see a strength potion, you might not necessarily think that that is a good card and you shouldn't waste the money to get it. And we'll go about the store a little bit down the road in the video, but that's actually a very good card that you should definitely buy, because it gives you a permanent stat increase for the remainder of that adventure, the 3 stages that I was mentioning earlier. And since we brought up the store a little bit, let's talk about the store. After every stage of an adventure, you will be able to go to a store and use the gold that you found throughout the map to buy cards. Now, like I said, there's card systems in this game. You can buy class cards here, you can buy regular cards that go for every type of class, and you can buy support cards such as health potions, strength potions. I really enjoy this because I love when games give you the ability to buy stuff with in-game currency, because it gives you something to look forward to. It lets you play the game kind of how you want to play it. Now, you can debate whether or not they give you enough play styles with every class. For example, you really just want to play the game the way these classes were designed, and there's not really a lot to play that doesn't go against the way they were designed. For the assassin, they kind of want you to you know, kind of rogue around the map, you know, scout around the map, look for chests, stay invisible, and do massive amounts of damage through stealth mechanics and through backstabs. And I think that maybe they can go a little bit more to making more styles for every type of class, but that doesn't take away from the fact, because I felt like even though that there wasn't a lot of variety in gameplay from class to class, the gameplay from class to class was amazing. Besides, you know, like I mentioned the wizard earlier, and even the wizard was fun. It's just, though, you had to have cards to really use the wizard to its effective, or you had to really combine it with other classes such as the archer in the game. And the cards aren't really hard to come by. You know, there's like a little icon at the bottom right of every adventure to where if you do enough attacks on enemies, you defeat enough enemies, that slowly fills up, and you can actually take your cards that you don't want and you can throw it in that little bar and you can give it more points. And once that hits 100, you get a free card. Now, what it looked like to me, what I saw is when you do that, you get the class cards, and when you get the chest on the map, you'll get like cards that are affected to every class. Now, it might be the other way around. I can't exactly remember which one was which, but that's usually how I saw it, and that's usually how it came out when I was playing the game. Now, let's talk about the overall feeling of this game. This is an amazing game, you guys. I can't really stress this enough. I was beyond excited that this game was coming to PC, because I love VR, but VR sometimes doesn't mix with me. VR doesn't love me. And sometimes I want to play this game, but I'm like, man, do I really want to sit in a room with that VR headset on? And sometimes I'll feel a little nauseous playing it. But when they came to PC, I was like, now I can play this on my PC. I could still interact with people in my room. And I was really excited. I do recommend this game to you guys. I feel like Demeo is a fresh paint on a genre that doesn't really get innovation too much. Now, clearly you can argue that there's a lot of things in Demeo that needs to be fixed. Like, for instance, I said about the wizard. I don't think the wizard was, you know, capable enough on his own without his cards. I think that, you know, maybe they need to do a little bit more on the stats of the game. I felt like when you're the tank regardless. When I play RPGs such as this, I like progression. I like growing with the character. And I felt like the enemies was growing, but throughout the stages, I wasn't growing unless I was using like, you know, a strength potion or something. And I felt like they can, you know, do little minor tweaks to that, because when you play as a guardian, which is supposed to be the tank, you can take mad damage. He is tanky, but I felt like it wasn't necessarily doing what I would like him to do throughout the journey. Sure, he could do that at the beginning, but by second to third stage, I kind of would want you to be able to upgrade that initial ability or something. And you know, it is what it is. It's like I said, I don't think it takes away from the game. That's just my constructive criticism to making the game better. And you know, with that, with the difficulty scale that this game has, because like I mentioned a little bit earlier, the game can be difficult. You know, it goes from stage to stage. I felt like they have no problem swarming you with enemies, and they expect you to use these cards to get yourself out of these situations. And I respect that. I like it. You know, I felt like maybe the fact that you're using a card system and a dice system, because you know, what happens is when you attack people, you roll a dice, you can theoretically get a skull, and I felt like having both of those together might have been a little bit more in the RNG system than I'm willing to really feel comfortable in. But it's like I said, what's crazy is they did stuff so well where I never felt like I was annoyed or angry that I rolled bad dice. I never felt like I got bad cards, and it frustrated me because they were constantly rewarding with me with cards. And if you didn't like those cards, you can take those cards and dispose of them to get more points to go towards everyone's next cards. And keep in mind that mechanic is for everyone. It's not just you. So if everyone's got cards that they don't like, they can just get rid of them, and it builds that pool for everyone to get new cards. And I really enjoyed that. I think Demeo has something here. I think that when they really determine what they want to do with this game, and I feel like they have, but obviously games will change to a point, and once they feel the criticism from the community, it might push away a different way. But I do feel like the foundation for this game is amazing. And sure, there might not be a lot of content right now. There's 3 adventures with 3 stages on every adventure, and I would say a stage can take you anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how skillful you are in this game. I'm sure there's some that can do it quicker, but that's a pretty good amount of content. If you look at it, that's probably around 10 hours, your first playthrough of every stage. And I've played these stages multiple times, and I never felt like I was burnt out even playing the same stage back to back, because when you're playing with friends, that's why I felt like, you know, when you play with one other person, let me control 2 people, because I can always have that sensation, because I don't always have to find 4 people. But you know, that's pretty much what I feel about Demeo. I definitely feel like it's worth the asking price for this game, which I'm pretty sure is $30. And the good part about buying Demeo on Steam is if you have friends that's playing this on VR, guess what? You could play with them. It's got cross-play. I don't know about cross-progression. I didn't really see any settings to set anything like that up, but cross-play is good. I feel like, you know, do cross-progression, it would be better, because you can take your account from one you know, system to another. And it might be on the actual website. I didn't really look too much into that, but crossplay works day one, and I have to give my hats off to an indie company that could do crossplay more successful than some AAA companies day one. But you know, that's pretty much the Demeo for PC review from Lord Addict. I would definitely say that Demeo on PC and on VR in general is Iron Lord approved for sure, because I really enjoyed it. It definitely got that iron stamp. I really need to make an animation to put on these videos when I feel like I'm feeling something, man. It's getting that Iron Lord stamp. You know, I'm gonna work on that. That's going to be Addict's next adventure, to get that iron stamp emote to put on these videos. But you know, definitely go and buy that game. I think it's worth every penny. I really enjoyed, you know, the narrative focus that they give you on here, the music that's in this game. I really enjoyed the gameplay for the most part. You know, it's like I said, there was some nitpicks I can give, and that's all I really did in this video was nitpick stuff. But everything I enjoyed, I played to its fullest. I probably got 30-40 hours between the PC version and the VR, and I loved every minute of it. And I think I'm going to start streaming this game, because it is a nice game that you can stream and interact with your chat. Now, when it came to the VR, I didn't really want to stream the VR version, because VR doesn't really look the greatest when you stream, in my opinion. But I would definitely be streaming this game. I recommend it to all of you guys. And until next time, this is my review on Demeo for the PC, particularly the Steam version. I don't know if it's on like Epic Games Store or anything like that, but it's on the Steam version for $30, and I highly recommend it. And until next time, this is Lord Addict, and I'm out of here. Peace.